If you've been struggling with martial arts instructors, employees, anybody inside of your dojo just not giving a crap about what you do and having a very complacent attitude, this video is for you. I'm gonna show you how to transform your culture and have $1 million team. Hey everybody, my name is Jennifer Waters. I am the Sales and Systems Sensei. Today we're gonna dig more into systems. And for those of you who don't know me, I actually run a program called the 7-Figure Dojo Jumpstart Program, where we help martial arts school owners scale their dojo using our biz ops strategy and a dojo assistant to do that. So you can always get more information about it at 7figuredojo.com. But in this video today, I'm talking to all of my school owners that have employees. Listen, if you have employees, you know that you have some responsibilities that they don't even think about. I'm sure at night you're sitting there going, I want to do the best for my team. I want to do the best for my employees. I want them to have the best. And if you're like me, you really want to see your team succeed. But somewhere along the way, you may have an employee that you thought was a great employee to begin with. Maybe they were on fire. They were one of the best people ever. And then all of a sudden, it seems like they just flipped a switch and suddenly became this resentful person that was just working behind the scenes against you, undermining you. And you're like, what in the world did I do to deserve this kind of behavior? And you may feel stuck. Like, you may feel like, well, I can't fire them because if I do, half the student population is going to go away with them. Or you may feel like I can't fire them because I don't have anybody to replace them right now. Like, who's going to do this work? It's all going to fall back on me, and then I'm not going to be able to do it. So today I'm going to talk to you about building that $1 million team, what it takes, how to do it, and most importantly, what to do if you're stuck with somebody that you know. If I asked you right now, if I said, hey, would you hire this person again? And your answer is no, you shouldn't have them on your team. Hold that thought just for a moment. You should not have them on your team. So what do? If you're in that situation and you're like, man, my team is just not the best. Okay, so here's what I want you to do first. I need you to make sure you're taking extreme ownership of the situation. You were the one who caused it. You were the one who has allowed this behavior. Now you need to get over that. You can't just sit there and grovel in it. But you need to understand that not only did you cause it, but you can change it, okay? You have 2 C's that are impacting you in this moment, cause and change. You caused it, but you can change it, and here's how you can change it for the future. I like to do this. Whenever I make a mistake, I remind myself, don't make that mistake again. You know, I'm a fighter, so I like to spar. I like to get in there with sparring partners, and sometimes my sparring partners, they give me some trick shots, and I might run into something that I just didn't think that I was gonna run into, and I make a mental note of it, and I go, not gonna have that happen again. And I want you to think about it that way with your team. If you have somebody right now, or you have a team that you're just not thrilled with at the moment, I want you to just make a mental note that the next person you hire, you're gonna do it different. And the reality is that you're gonna go through several versions of your team to get the best team, okay? It's just gonna happen. There's gonna be very few people that are gonna stick with you for 5 years. They're gonna stick with you for 10 years. A lot of people are gonna stick with you for a season, and that's okay too. Like, you need to understand the seasonality of what we do as martial arts schools and who's gonna be teaching your classes and who's gonna be working for you. And although you want to romanticize what may have happened in years past, where, you know, the sensei of the school, the senior instructor, mentored and helped somebody underneath, and then they passed that along and they passed it down to them almost like a father-son relationship or a father-daughter relationship. That's not the reality of what's going to happen in today's time, in today's age and technology and the seasonality of workers. Workers now don't work for the same company for 20, 30 years and then retire. Most of the time they have had 5, 6, maybe even 10 different careers before they retire. Let that sink in just for a moment. All right, let's dig into this. What do? 1, you already know that you're gonna change some things. And honestly, this is the very first thing that we did when we started seeing repeat behaviors. The first thing that we did is we wrote down our policies of what we wanted to have happen when someone got hired on. So how did we want them to act? What were they allowed to do on social media? Did we allow alcohol, drugs, things like Could they invite their friends to come up to the school and watch them teach? If you have teenagers, you know, somebody might say, hey guys, you know, I work at the martial arts school. You want to come over here and just watch me teach class? I mean, if it hasn't happened to you, then I'm sure it will at some point. It's definitely happened to us in the past. We had to come up with, like, what were we going to do about cell phones? Did we allow them? Did we not allow them? Were they allowed sometimes but not other times? Who could use them? Who couldn't use them? Who had access to computers? Who didn't have access to computers? Like, all of these things. And honestly, you may change your policies, but if you don't have any policies to begin with at all, you need to write them down. And they don't have to be perfect. You need to understand that you're going to go back and you're going to revise this policy probably every 6 months to a year until you find that sweet spot. I think it took us maybe 4, maybe 5 different revisions of those policies. We went from like super strict down to none at all, back up to we definitely have to have some policies. So I've done both of those things, and I understand and I know that your policies need to fit the culture of your school. So if the culture of your school, just to give you an example, if the culture of your school is that, like, maybe you have an MMA gym, maybe you have, you know, Muay Thai, maybe you have a jiu-jitsu school, and it's a little bit more of a grungy feel, like it's okay, like the guys that are coming in are like there to be fighters and all these things, it may be totally okay that your coaches, you know, have earrings or nose rings or neck tattoos or things like that. Whereas a martial arts school that teaches kids may not want someone that has earrings and nose rings and neck tattoos teaching the students. But maybe they do. My point is that I just brought out some of these things that are kind of like controversial things, and I just brought them out to the surface because you have to decide what the culture of your school is. One is not better than the other, and one is not worse than the other. It really just depends on the culture of your school. So figure that out, make sure you get those policies in place, and just because you wrote them down doesn't mean that everybody on your team is going to abide by them. But here's the thing. Once you write them down, when you go to hire somebody else before you actually hire them and start sending them a paycheck, they have to agree that they will abide by those policies. And then they also have to know that if they infringe upon those policies, that you will then in turn talk to them, and that a policy violation could mean that they get written up with a warning and then they get fired. So if you put those things in place, it's very much like putting up guardrails inside of your dojo, inside of your business, so that people aren't trying to jump off of a cliff and thinking that they're going to land on their feet. They know where the guardrails are on that winding road so that they don't run off of it. And when you're able to do this, it sets those boundaries for your team. It puts you more at ease. It puts them more at ease. And you start to gain some control over the behavior of your employees, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And if you're in the situation right now where you're like, well, I already have employees that are bending the rules, and, you know, maybe if I had somebody come in and just like tell them, you know, that this behavior wasn't tolerable, that this behavior was not going to help our school grow, maybe it would be better. You are that person. Listen, you are the business owner. You do not need a coach, a consultant, a 8th degree black belt, your instructor to come into your dojo and tell your staff how to behave. You own it. You tell them how to behave and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Have a team meeting. Tell everybody, guys, we're going to sit down today and I'm going to talk to you about how we're going to start operating as of X day. And then you go in and you go over the policies and you slide it across the table and everybody initials. And whoever doesn't initial can walk out the door. You have to be ready for that possibility. Listen, by doing this and by putting these guardrails in place, you're going to be a much better business owner. And on top of that, you're not going to be frustrated every single day wondering when your $1 million team is going to show up so you can have a $1 million school. By putting these things in place, you're not only going to help serve your martial arts students, you're going to serve your employees, and really, ultimately, you're going to sleep better at night knowing that you've done everything possible to put a culture in place that reflects what you want to have happen inside of your dojo. Until next time, guys, be awesome.